record on this computer. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rare Gems and Cuts. I'm your host, CLIFFB. And Rare Gems and Cuts is an opportunity for me and my Rare Gem guests to share in the love, the joy, and the power of music. So without further ado, let me introduce a particular Rare Gem that I have here today. Let's get this started. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Let me introduce a husband, a father, a great friend of mine, and an amazing, amazing photographer, Mr. Bruce Talamanon. Welcome, Bruce. Welcome, welcome. Hey, man, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for the invitation. We have a history. We've had adventures.
Absolutely.
So I'm ready to rock with this.
Yeah, let me, and a matter of fact, I'm going to start right there when you said that, because we do have a history. I have worked with Bruce on a number of film projects over the years, too many to mention. Let me just start out with this particular one here. This particular photo. I love this photo. This is taken by Mr. Bruce. This is a great photo. You know this photo, right?
I know that photo.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, I worked as Wesley Snipes' personal hairstylist on a number of his films. And this one in particular is the Blade. I did the Blade designs for this film. And Mr. Bruce took that picture. So let me just show people here. This is the Blade soundtrack. I don't know if a lot of people know about the Blade soundtrack.
The Blade soundtrack.
Yeah. Now, Blade 2 soundtrack, man.
Just to be clear, that particular picture was taken by another photographer who was on for the poster shoot. But exactly. Wes, you know, I worked with you. I worked with Wes fighting vampires in Prague. And that was taken in Prague. And we had oh God, that was what 3 months, 4 months, something like that, you know, in Czechoslovakia, and it was wonderful. And we also of course worked on the first Blade in Los Angeles, and you know, there was we fought the bad guys. So and I, you know, my part was to document that whole experience, and that's the way we met. That's what we did.
Right. So obviously I have you on the show here today because I'm a music lover, and that's what my Rare Gems and Cut is all about. It's about sharing the musical wows, the joys, the love of music. And I do it, for me personally, through my 8,000 albums that I have behind me, because that brings me joy. And I decided to bring you on today because of your particular book here, which is an amazing, and I mean amazing, pictorial book of this era of soul and funk, right? One of the things about this book that I will share with everybody is this is like your eyes listening to the music. It's the same type of feeling that I get when I listen to my records and stuff. This is the visual right here that will come through and just vibrate through your body looking at some of these pictures. We're going to get into some of this a little bit later, but this is an amazing book. So I'm just going to say to everybody, this is something you got to have on your coffee table for real. You know what I mean? If you have a coffee table. If you don't have a coffee table, just run out and get it and just have it. You know what I mean? Great book. So Bruce, I mean, tell me a little bit about your past, how you started, you know, with photography.
Well, you know, first of all, I've been a photographer. I've been a working photographer for over 40 years. Wow. And I actually had no clue when I was in college that I was going to be a photographer. I was a political science major. I was on a foreign study program out of Whittier College, which was where I went, and the school had a really good political science department, international relations department. I had this idea I was going to be a lawyer. In 1971, I was on foreign study and I bought a camera in Berlin.
What was your first camera? What was your first camera, man?
My first camera was an Asahi Pentax.
Okay.
You know, it was a little camera you could pick up for $100, $125. One lens, and I, we were, like I said, I was over there doing foreign study. We got to Copenhagen where we were going to spend the semester abroad, and there was a notice that Miles Davis was coming to Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, and that's the first time I took a photograph, as to document something. And the reason I got into photography was because I really understood that photography was the visual equivalent of the guy that writes down and analyzes
Absolutely
the work or whatever. So for me, that was exciting to be able to capture what was going on and basically record a visual history. So
now Bruce, I just want to break in and ask you a kind of quick question, right? Because obviously we're in a different era of photography. Everybody's a selfie, everybody's a photographer, right? Because I seem to remember, obviously, when I grew up with, in the 70s, going to concerts, that taking pictures, recordings was a no-no. That was just something you had to sneak your Walkman in, they would pat you down, no pictures. How did you end up shooting pictures of Miles so early? How did that come about?
Well, it was interesting because there was that period where there weren't a lot of people going down to the front of the stage to photograph. Okay. And stuff only really got crazy toward the end. I did the music stuff from 1972 to 1982, which is what's
in the book. Yeah.
It wasn't, and also, quite frankly, Cliff, there was a whole way that you if you carried yourself, and I like to say, don't mess up the vibe. You could get away with anything.
Okay.
You could, and so in this particular case, the short version is I was in the cheap seats all the way, the 30 kroner seats, which was like up in the nosebleed section of Tivoli Gardens. And I mean, Miles was a little tiny speck, and I, had dressed nicely, and I had my camera, and I walked down, I'm walking down to the front, and an usher stops me and he says, "Excuse me, may I see your ticket?" And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, "Well, I'm a journalist from Jet Magazine in the United States, the African American, the African American magazine of record." And the guy looked at me and he says, "Oh, well, of course, sir. Please continue." Yes. And I walked down to the front, and I sat down. But again, I was trying to be unobtrusive about the whole thing. Well, anyway, the end of the story is that there was another photographer there who had a Nikon with a motor drive. And of course, I have props. Okay. I have visuals here for our talk. And in the middle, Miles was in the middle of a solo, and he had the mute on, and this guy proceeds to fire off. And Miles emptied his spit valve on the guy. And
Really?
now he turns to me and he looks and he says, "You can stay.
Wow. Wow.
You can stay."
Now,
And
what was his reason for doing that? What do you think?
well, first of all, I hadn't done what that other guy had done.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I would like to think that that was the first time I understood the importance of don't fuck up the vibe.
Right.
Okay?
Timing is everything.
And
Timing
the
is
timing,
everything, right?
and I tell this. The interesting thing is, I tell this to mid career photographers. You know, photographers who are just getting in the game.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to rush in and announce yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, just slow it down. And I've you know, sometimes and again, it's how you present yourself, you
Yeah.
know. So I, you know, I would wear a sport coat and tie, you know, and dress shirt and maybe jeans or whatever, but they were, you know, fresh jeans and they weren't raggedy. And
Right.
you know, we were always fighting. I mean, because and later I went to a great photographer. I'm getting ahead of myself, but a great photographer named Howard Bingham, who was Muhammad Ali's
Yes. Personal
uh,
photographer. Yeah.
personal photographer
Right.
and uh, biographer, was, you know, he introduced me to the woman who was the founder of Soul newspaper, which was a small African American newspaper in Los Angeles, music and arts newspaper. And she hired me and to shoot. You know, my first photograph or assignment was Billy Paul in on on Crenshaw Boulevard at a place called the Crenshaw Palace, and that was my first cover. But she later pulled me into the office one day, and she looks at me and she says, "You clean up well. You know how to write. You know, you can put a sentence together. I'm sending you to Japan on this tour with the Supremes."
Okay. Wow.
So again,
let me ask you that. When she said that to you, what were you feeling? What went through your body, man? What was going on with you in your head? Did your head like explode, or what was
not
it
necessarily
like?
in this order. I was scared shitless. I was, you know, excited,
Yeah.
but I was, you know, already I was thinking about, okay, how are we, you know, how am I going to do this? You know, what am I going to do? How am I going to be prepared? And that's always been, you know, the other part. There's different parts, and you know, we've talked about this before. It's not so much about clicking a shutter. There's preparation. There's you know, do your homework. Again, one of the other things I say to young photographers is, you know, pay attention. It's all around you. The pictures, the opportunities. We'll
Absolutely.
talk about that when we get into the, you know, into
your book.
the photographs. You know, that's what you've got to do, because you can, you know, and you've got to learn how to, when everything falls apart, you've still got to come back with a photograph. I had, you know, years later in 1984, I had the picture editor for Time magazine say to me, real simple, there's no excuse for not coming back with the shot. There's no excuse.
Wow.
I don't care if it rained. I don't care if you couldn't, you know, if you couldn't get a clear shot.
That's deep,
make
man.
It happen. Make it
That's
happen.
deep. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Good example. The
That's
photograph behind you of Stevie Wonder.
Of Stevie.
Of the cover. That was taken in 1981. I had total access on the stage. but you'll notice that that's a blur shot.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where Stevie, I couldn't get a shot. Now I had photographed Stevie since 1973. And back then, you could get 2 feet away from him. You could photograph him as he played the drums, you could get his hands on the keyboard. Well, now Stevie in 1981 is surrounded by synthesizers and different keyboards.
Yeah.
So all you've got is this little head popping up.
Right.
Now what do you do?
Right.
And so what I did was I got the shot that the publicist would love, which was Stevie, just a nice, clear shot. Now I wanted to go deeper. Now I wanted something else. So I got the assignment that I had come for. But now, sometimes I tell photographers, sometimes you got to kick the camera. And what I meant by that was I put the camera on a what's called a monopod, which is a one-legged stand, which kind of helps you control your camera.
Okay. Yeah.
And I instead of the three-legged
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I started to, and I slowed the shutter down, and now I got movement.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you look at that, this is sort of like a visual interpretation of Stevie Wonder. Now, publicists back then hated it. What am I going to do with this out of focus piece of shit?
Yeah.
And yet, as an art piece, this is probably my best photograph of Stevie.
Yeah.
And because because you see, there's movement.
Yeah.
There's, Stevie, what would Stevie do? Stevie would start bobbing his head, right?
Yeah.
To the music, and he's in his own world, and he's not thinking about anything other than the music and what he's doing to create this great sound. And I just started to move the camera in sort of in sync. And then I started to go the other way. When he would go this way, I'd go the other way, long shutter speed, and it's still, captured because you can still tell it's Stevie, but it's now, I was painting with light on the film.
Did you know that at the time when you had to take your pictures in there, did you feel that was like a really hot shot? Even though the editor was probably looking at it saying, hey, what am I supposed to do with this? Did you know you were feeling something there?
Well, there's other photographs that we can talk about to show as an example.
Yeah.
Where you've got to know that gets down to know your equipment.
Yeah.
Right. That gets down to, because remember, you can't, back then we couldn't look in the back of the camera, to see if the picture came out.
Yeah.
We couldn't, look in the screen.
Right.
I'm using an iPhone here.
iPhone, right.
The screen to see, okay, everything came out okay. Couldn't do that. You wait till tomorrow when you develop the film. So that meant that you had to have, beyond a basic idea of what your camera does, you had to know that camera. And quite frankly, I am saddened by the level of technical expertise that a lot of young photographers have today, which is
zero. True.
And I don't mean to come off like that guy, guy who is like, hey, you kids, get off my lawn. But I am saying, I am kind of saying, hey, get the fuck off my lawn if you don't know your craft. Okay.
Right.
Because I come from a long line of photographers who were serious about their craft. Gordon Parks, Roy D. Carava.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Respect.
If anybody's listening, if you don't know those names, those are two African Americans. But then there's David Douglas Duncan, who shot amazing stuff with Picasso. There's Bob Willoughby, okay, who probably shot some of the finest images of from Breakfast at Tiffany's with Audrey Hepburn, or James Dean, or Jim Marshall, the great rock and roll photographer out of San Francisco, who photographed Janis and Jimmy at Monterey. Okay, but also
great shots, yeah.
Photographed Miles Davis and John Coltrane at critical points in their career.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, that's, you know, those are the things that I think about. So I'm talking about just, you know, knowing you've got to know your instrument. Just like I remember, you know, these, you know, somebody, you know, put it, I thought very aptly, you know, as far as, you know, this is serious. You know, this, you know, you got to know, I mean, before you can go off and do free form, you know, and, you know, you've got to know your scales. You know, you've got to know, I agree with those who say, you know, you've got to be able to read your music, you know, because, you know, when Miles would turn around, you see these pictures of Miles in the studio. And yes, I'm basically a jazz guy. Okay. And here I am photographing R&B and funk and all of that, but it's the same thing. You would look at Marvin in the studio, you would look at Maurice White. These guys knew music, they knew music theory. They just didn't get in front of the thing and start singing, you know, because, you know, it's like Dexter Gordon said one time, you know, to somebody who came up on the bandstand, he says, what are we going to play? We're going to play so-and-so. And he says, in what key?
Right.
So, you know, I mean, that's the way I approach. I'm sorry for going off on a tangent.
Yeah,
but
no,
that's the way
cool.
I approach the music as far as the photography. And you know, in that time period, for me, that, you know, I lived and breathed R&B, soul, reggae, you know, it was crazy. So
when did you make the transition into doing film work? You've done a lot of film work over the years. So
yes,
I
started working for ABC television. There was you know, we both got stories, and so this is how crazy it gets. You know, my lab, okay, was one of the biggest the lab that I went to was one of the most important at that time in Los Angeles and in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. They handled the accounts for like 20th Century Fox, Paramount Pictures, Disney, ABC Television, MGM. And, you know, they had these photographers who were working, you know, at ABC Television and in all these different places. And so the head of the still department at ABC calls and he says, look, I'm looking, I want to get a couple of young photographers to work on some TV shows and some other stuff. And so, but, you know, they need to be consistent. They need to be able to take a picture. And mm-hmm. Who do you ask? Who do you ask if somebody can really take a picture? You ask their lab man. Okay. You ask the guy that sees.
Never thought about that. Yeah.
Sees everything before.
Yeah. True.
Before it's photoshopped and
yeah.
And so I go, I have my meager portfolio. However, it was filled with photographs of Patti LaBelle, Shaka Khan, Natalie Cole, Diana Ross, and the guy looks, and there were no white people in there, all right? Mm-hmm. And the guy looks at my portfolio and he says, well, if you can shoot these divas, surely you can shoot Joan Collins. And so he puts me on Dynasty and Laverne and Shirley and all of these all of these critically white shows.
Right.
And where, I mean, and that's a whole nother conversation, because many a time when I would go on these shows, the only things that would be black would be me and my cameras, but we'll talk about that later. But
Right.
you know, and quite frankly, I will take a shot here and say that, you know, everybody's jumping up and down about diversity and about inclusion and all of that stuff. And so we're getting African-American actors, you know, in front of the camera. We're getting black directors who are directing, but still most of these crews, they're still well, let me put it like there are not many, let me put it like this, there are not many people of the colored persuasion. Okay.
Understood. Yeah.
And you know, you've seen it. You
Yeah.
know,
I've been there. I know.
you were in the middle of that.
Absolutely.
But back to this thing of how I started. That's the way I got, you know, I got going. And then Howard Bingham took me on the set one day of a little movie called All the President's Men. And it was about the Watergate break-in.
Yeah, I know that movie. Yeah.
The crew was taking a break while the main actors, just a couple of guys, you know, Dustin Hoffman and Jason Robards and some guy named Robert Redford, and they are working out a very critical scene. And in the middle of this is the director and Howard Bingham. Howard's documenting, you know, the process and what these guys are doing. And I got to tell you, I looked at that and I said, "Oh boy, I want me some of that."
Oh yeah, that was a wow moment for you, an aha moment.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Run just kind of run through some of. I just want you to tell people some of the film projects you just, you know, I know you've been on a lot of them, man. Just ones that kind of stand out in your mind that you've shot for film, television.
Okay.
Come on, Vince, just run some names. Drop some names.
You know, Beverly Hills Cop Part 2 with Eddie Murphy, which ended up starting me. I think I ended up doing seven movies for Eddie. I started with a movie called The Golden Child. Then we did Harlem Nights. Then we did Vampire in Brooklyn. We did a little movie called Raw, which was his concert movie. That's my poster for Raw. But I also did movies with Goldie Hawn. I like to tell people, you know, I'll tell them, you know, I've been very fortunate because you know, sometimes we get pigeonholed, you know, where we only do, like when we do get into movies, we only do black projects. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's nothing black about Goldie Hawn and Pee Wee Herman and
Pee-wee
and Indiana Jones. Okay. I worked on two on the action unit for two Indiana Jones projects. I think it was Indy 3 and the last one. And you know, again, I gotta say, you know, you've got to be professional. You've got to know your work, because you know, and this is not a name check or anything like that. But when Steven Spielberg turns around and asks you, "Did you get the shot?" There's only one answer. Okay?
Right.
And one, you know, Devil in a Blue Dress. The great Walter Mosley book, which was turned into a movie with
Don Denzel
Cheadle and Denzel Washington.
Right.
You know, I did 2 movies, Blade 1 and Blade 2, with Wesley Snipes, fighting vampires, like I said, on you know, on the streets of Prague, with Guillermo del Toro, the great you know, the great Spanish director. And so Richard Pryor and Cicely Tyson, God bless both of them,
Yeah.
and worked with Oz Scott, the great African American director.
Do you have any favorites? Do you have any like aha, film moments like, wow, that was just like an amazing project I had fun on? Do you have like one that really sticks out in your mind? Like, wow,
Well,
that was a
I would
great.
say, working working with people who allowed me to really get in there and solve problems. I
Mm-hmm.
solve problems. I love problem solving. So I'm I got I'm thinking about on the Indiana Jones project, and maybe we can insert a couple of things when at some point, because is this live?
No, we're not live. I'm taping this.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay, so we can
yeah.
I'll get you some stuff
Absolutely, man.
and because I think it's nice to see myself on the screen, but maybe we should see some some photos.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
We're gonna do that.
Because it's not about me, it's about the image.
Yeah.
And I think about sometimes, and this, when you're working on a movie, it's a collaborative venture, and so like the photographer, you're there to basically do two things: get the action, get what's happening, and stay out of the way.
Yeah.
But if you want to really get a good shot, if you talk to people like David Lee, who just did a fabulous documentation of Chadwick Boseman and oh man, sister in Viola Davis in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Ma Rainey, yeah, okay.
You look at those photographs, you know that he had to be able to dance with the Steadicam operator. He had to be able to get right in there. Okay. And that's what I want to do. That's what I've always, tried to do. So I would build mounts to put my camera on, that so it would be locked with the big camera, and I'd fire stuff with remote control triggers and stuff like that. But this stuff, the music, that was my training ground. This was, and it's interesting because this was at the start of my career, Cliff. This was, yes, I say these are photographs. What you're about to see are photographs taken by, by a young African-American photographer at the start of his career. Wow. And so, let's go through some,
you had, with a lot of these artists too, you had unbelievable access with some of these people too. I have to say, you know what I mean? They trusted you. It shows in your work, the trust itself that a lot of people had in you as a photographer. Trust.
You've got to have that level of trust. You've got to have, I had a publicist. Look, I had a lot of people look out for me, man. All right. But I remember this one publicist who hired me for my first gig. It was Motown, and it was a fellow named Bob Jones. And he was, this is an African-American publicist who's, handling these acts. And so he sends me out to photograph Thelma Houston. And, it was at the Troubadour in West Hollywood up on Santa Monica Boulevard. I think it's like Santa Monica and Robertson, right on that corner. And, I could shoot, he wanted me to shoot the concert and then bring a flash, because the record execs are going to come backstage. We want to get a picture with, Thelma and maybe some some celebrities that, and because they're going to put it in Billboard and in Cash Box, the magazines, the trade magazines.
Yeah.
And you know, there's two parts to the story. The first part is he says, "So what are you going to charge me?" And I hadn't a clue, right? So I said, $35 for the night. And he kind of smiled and he says, "Nah, let's make it 50 and plus expenses, you get a drink tab."
Right.
But he said to me later, as you know, as our relationship developed, which ended up paying for my cameras and stuff, he says, "Just remember this." He says, "You're not the fifth Beatle."
Wow. That's a deep statement, man. Yeah.
These celebrities, these musicians, they are not your friends.
Yeah.
You are there to be a professional.
Right.
Carry yourself in that manner.
I like
that. I mean, when I think about, you know, moments in my career, that was a pivotal moment.
Yeah, that's a wow moment.
Because I did not have, look, I was on my way to being a lawyer when I decided to make the announcement after I graduated from college. You know, I was going to go to law school, and I made the announcement that I was going to be a photographer. Shall we say that my father, James C. Talomon Jr., rest in peace, he did not have charitable things to say.
Yeah, he was not too excited about that. A photographer versus law.
But later I learned this was a Black man who had been there and was basically scared for his son.
Yeah.
You know, who was going out into an uncharted. There was not this huge point of reference.
You know, I just want to share something with you, like words of wisdom from my father. I remember going out and getting ready to go out into the world, breaking out of the nest, and my father saying to me, he says, "Cliff, let me just tell you something. The world is not waiting on you with open arms." You know, that's fathers, man. You know, I thought the world like, "Hey, come.
Come on down, man.
Come on. Yeah, we got something for you." He said, "The world is not waiting on you." You know, very true, man. Your father, hey, deep.
Yeah. And I will, you know, and I got to say this, in the end, before he died, he got it. He understood I'd be okay. He understood that I could, you know, because, and I constantly now as a senior photographer, right? You know, I advocate for other photographers, for photographers of color.
That's great, man.
Because we need to support each other.
Definitely.
But more importantly, we need to be able to make, you know, this ain't free.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to pay that AT&T bill. You know, we need to be able to, I mean, my work has taken me around the world.
Yeah.
I'm in the National Portrait Gallery. In 2019, one of my portraits of Earth, Wind, and Fire was selected for the Portrait of a Nation Prize. There were 6 that year. You know, the Library of Congress bought one of my archives from Time Magazine, 1984. You know, I have people who collect my work, and you know, I'm able. That's, as a matter of fact, that's the photograph of Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, and that was taken in 1978. The costumes are wonderful, done by the African American tailor, costume creator Bill Witten, who had a little atelier, I think it is.
I'm familiar with them.
That's workshop for. But in West Hollywood, called Workroom 27. One of the things I said about the the book, when we were putting it together, was that this wasn't going to be just black men and black women screaming into a microphone.
Right.
This was going to be, you have to have the guy who dressed the Jackson Five, who the Commodores, Stevie, stuff like that. So, this was a guy who was doing major work. This is a little shot.
Speaking of dressing, right?
Yes.
Let me just do this. I don't want to cut you off, man.
No.
This what I want to do here is I want people to see some of these shots in this book, right?
Absolutely.
So I've got some things that are kind of bookmarked here, and
Okay.
I'm gonna flip through them. And it's not like we're gonna do a rocket round here, but like I just want your reaction, your quick reaction to some of these shots that I flipped through. You understand?
Cliff, I'm ready.
So yeah, okay. So obviously,
Parliament. Okay, here we go. Parliament Funkadelic, 1977. The Los Angeles Sports Arena that was taken in a broom closet backstage before they went on. Now, a large broom closet, but you have never lived until you have had to wrestle 13 people, that's 13 people, onto a 10-foot backdrop when they're high.
That's crazy.
But it was magic. I had them for wait, that's a wonderful picture. Stop. Marvin Gaye, we're driving down down from his ranch to go visit his mother in his vintage Rolls Royce. Actually, it was a Bentley, I think. But just driving down the 405 freeway, and I look at that picture and it I like the intimacy of that. Speaking of said ranch in Topanga Canyon, this is there's a moment in the Chris Christopherson, Barbra Streisand movie, A Star Is Born, the one before Lady Gaga, and they go to the Chris Christopherson character's home, his other home, his ranch. Mm-hmm. And Marvin was living the rock star life. Okay, this is at the top of the at the top of the ranch. He's sort of surveying his land, and it's just a moment where it's Marvin, it's me, and he's in repose. He's not screaming into that microphone,
Yeah.
He's at rest. That man had one of the most beautiful voices that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Okay, try doing this with Jay-Z or Beyonce at 3:30 in the afternoon in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. Teddy Pendergrass, it was just after his first solo performance on Soul Train. The A&R guy from CBS Records says, let's go out and take some pictures on the street. We had no police credentials, no pass, no security, and Teddy, who the ladies loved, was we were just having a moment there, and I just love the way he's laughing.
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin in one of her homes in Los Angeles, 1977. She cooked for us that night. She played for us. One of the things I've had, and she's leaning on her camera. My camera is photographing her leaning on her piano.
Okay.
And I just love again the intimacy there. It's me and her. Okay.
Yeah.
It's me and her. No, and that was the other thing. No, she did her own makeup.
Right.
She started bringing out her furs. She starts bringing out her jewelry. she starts, you know, it was just this intimate session that we did for the cover of Soul newspaper. Minnie Riperton.
Great
Soul
shot,
Train,
man. Great
Soul
shot.
Train. You know, this was a woman, you know, what was it? Rotary Connection, I think.
Yep. Rotary Connection. You're right.
A lot of people don't know that. Also, she was a background singer with Stevie Wonder for Wonder Love.
Yep.
And Stevie, I think, if I'm not wrong, Stevie produced.
He produced the first record of hers. Yeah,
her
absolutely.
first record.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. You know, it's just wonderful. I mean, some of the women in Wonder Love. I mean, when you think about oh man, Denise
Williams.
Denise Williams was in Wonder Love. There's a wonderful shot. You've got to show that shot of Denise holding on to Stevie in 1974.
Oh yeah. I didn't bookmark that one.
Dance off of the stage.
Yeah.
But you're getting ready to show something else now.
Yeah. I didn't bookmark that one. There's so much stuff in here, man. That's why I said I'm lightning round you on this, man.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm trying to be brief. Okay, I call this shell shock. This is from left to right. Michael Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, Jackie Jackson. In the back are Marlon and Tito. In the limo on the way home. They're sweating. Jermaine's Jerry curl has fallen. You know. Yep. This is the things. These are the things you most people don't see. Yeah. You know, and now you've got publicists and people who say, well, let so-and-so get out of these wet clothes. What? Yeah. You know, I mean, or they would try and pull the spliff out of Bob Marley's mouth. Yeah. Come on now. Gil Scott-Heron, Brian Jackson and the Midnight Band taking.
Yes, sir. Roxy. And I have to give props to this. This is my man here, Barnett Williams versus Soul, the percussionist.
Barnett Williams, badass. Badass. He could do stuff on the drums. Yeah. And what was that? He would shake the Shaker Ray. The Shaker Ray. Yes.
Yeah. And brother Tony here. That's for my DC crew. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, we have a connection. Gil. Oh man, you know, Gil was wonderful. Gil. People need to understand. You know, these were guys who I mean, you know, Gil Scott-Heron, Bob Marley. They used their position. Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, they used their position to sing about more than women and what we were going to do tonight and all
definitely.
You know, Bill Withers, you know, same thing. They knew the power of their position. This is Bill Withers. This is 1977. 1977 was a great year. This is a portrait that I took at his home. I had a 1976, I want to say 75 Fiat, and it was British Racing Green, and I had this little Fiat motor car, and I would stuff my equipment and a 9-foot seamless hanging out the window, right? And I would go on location because not everybody could come to a studio. So we had to go where they were. And so we'd set up, and I've got a great story about Donna Summer, which, you know, you can see that black and white, where we were told that we had to be at a spot. We're going to set it, you know, we'll set it up. We've got Donna Summer for 20 minutes, and Donna walks in, she sees the lights, she's early, she sees the lighting and everything, and she says, "Oh, you brothers are serious." And my partner, Bobby Holland, who went on to be a great advertising photographer. But at the time, Bobby shoots back, "Yes, we are, sister." She stayed for 4 hours, Cliff. Okay. Okay. She stayed for 4 hours. And then she called us when Ebony Magazine called her, people, she said, and they, they'll defer to Diana. They'll defer to
Yeah,
the divas,
the divas. Got to.
who
Yeah,
do you want? Who do you want? And to photograph your cover, for the magazine. And she said, "I work with Bruce Tallamon."
yeah.
My first Ebony cover, Stevie Wonder,
Rare,
and
very, 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 not so often that you see Stevie without his glasses.
that's true. This is oh man, I'm blanking out. I'm embarrassed. This what's the name of this band that he's sitting in? Stevie would sit in. If he liked what you were doing, he'd send a note. I mean, I have pictures of him with Chick Corea and folks like that. Who's the guy in the picture with him? That's no, I mean, but no, it says so in the book.
Oh, hold
I
on.
don't have my
I'm not
book.
sure, Bruce. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's right. It should be right.
Okay. With Johnny Pacheco.
Johnny Pacheco.
Yeah, and the Fania All Stars.
And the Fania All Stars.
Yeah.
And excuse me. The again, look at my level of access. I'm on the fucking stage, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's why some of these pictures, like I said, in this book, people, I tell people you got to get this book because, you have so much access to so many moods, so many different feelings, so many different emotions, and they all come out through your pictures, man, with the people, because they obviously, it's trust, man. You got to have trust. You almost have to come invisible. You know what I mean? You have to be invisible sometimes,
Yeah, this is a wonderful photo session with Bootsy Collins, the guy who has transformed bass.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, he's in an elite group, and this was at Warner Records. We had to cart our stuff up to Warner Records because the record companies were not respecting Soul Magazine. They were not respecting our little magazine. They'd give us 5 minutes, 10 minutes, take them outside, shoot them against the wall. That's it. So we said, no, the whole deal with Donna Summer was, which then led to all this stuff with Bootsy and George and Shaka Khan and Rufus and all of that stuff, was that we said, if you want to have her, them on our cover, you've got to give access to my African-American writers and photographers. So she energized us and gave us this access. Then we had this work. Shaka Khan with 100,000 of her nearest and dearest friends at the P-Funk Earth Festival. That was in the Los Angeles Coliseum. This was 1977.
She's young, man.
At the height, just as she's hitting that note, and look at where your finger is, and in relation to her fingers, right. She's that's you got to get everything in that frame. If I cut off the finger,
right. That's the wow moment, man. She's at a wow moment. It's like, wow, you know what I'm saying? You caught it, man.
And again, I could reach out and touch her. I could I don't know. I would like to think that I established a level of trust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, though, that I knew to get out of the way. All right. Soul Train. Cool in the Gang.
Cool in the Gang.
And again, Don Cornelius, if you're going to have a book like this, you've got to be able to talk about and celebrate and celebrate the guy who brought Black dance into the homes of America every Saturday afternoon, man. You know,
Yep.
this is James Brown and Don Cornelius. Can you go closer to your camera? Okay, no, move. There you go. Yeah, look at that, man. Two Black men at the height of their powers, their recognition, their you know, this is 1973.
Yeah.
Don Cornelius couldn't get a deal with ABC or CBS or and there was no MTV, there was no cable channels, you know, and so he basically did it all himself. And in that particular picture, James Brown is asking him, well, he's looking around and he sees, you know, he's got Black cameramen and stage directors, and James Brown is asking him, well, who you with? Who's backing you? But he was, you know, he was thinking that there was somebody, as I like to say, not of the colored persuasion,
Right.
who was in league with Don Cornelius, and Don Cornelius was only the front man. And Don said, James, it's only me.
Just me.
And that was
right.
Now this picture, I'd say that this is probably in my top 5 all time.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, yes. And now I also want to say I almost threw it away.
Really?
Why?
Yeah, why?
No one has ever seen this picture. And this gets back to also following my own advice. Pay attention.
Right.
Okay, let me set it up for you. I think we were in Paris.
And hold on, just because there are some people that might not know who this is, so we're gonna appeal to them too.
This is if you've heard the song September, then you'll know that this is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
There you go, baby.
The guy in the middle coming right into my face is Verdine White from Earth, Wind, and Fire, the great bass player. And the guy in the white and gold is Maurice. Maurice was the leader of Earth, Wind, and Fire, the guy who put it all together for all those years, who started out playing as a session drummer for Chess Records.
That's
and
right.
Then went on to be in the Ramsey Lewis Trio.
Ramsey, you know your history, Bruce. You know your history, absolutely.
Who came to my studio, and afterwards, I mean, and we just had a ball that day. Afterwards, he says, his manager, the road manager says, Reese liked what you're doing. We're getting ready to do a world tour. Look at this man. If that's not rock star, I mean, Mick Jagger don't look that good, man.
That's right, baby.
But then you've got the front line with Al McKay and Reese and Verdine. But the guy, but Monty White, the road manager, says, so Reese really liked the way you handled yourself at the session. We're getting ready to go out on the road on our world tour in 1979. We want you to come along. We're going to Europe, Egypt, and Japan. Again, look at these costumes, man. Again, Bill Witten, know that name. You know, this brother was designing, and he was designing for everybody. When he wasn't designing for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and like I said, and doing stuff with Stevie and doing Michael Jackson's glove. Everybody knows about the glove, right?
Yeah.
Bill Witten designed that. But he also did stuff with Neil Diamond and Hugh Hefner. So this cat was international. You know, I mean, he was huge. Yeah. But it gets back to that shot.
Yep.
But let me do one thing. Let me tell you why. Get back to that shot of Verdine and Reese.
Yeah, carry on.
Here's a history lesson, boys and girls. This is okay. We got it. Yeah, it's beautiful. This back in these days, you photographed with film. It wasn't digital. And
Yeah.
so the film was slide film for color. And they'd come in these little slide mounts. Now, Cliff, being a senior member of that period, will
Absolutely.
know what that is. But the thing was that sometimes the slide mounts would be, you know, they put them in a machine and it would clip because you'd have a roll of 36. That was how many shots were on a roll of film.
Yeah, yeah.
And I sent it to the lab. The lab, it comes back. And what had happened was, okay, on a good day, I'm 5'7". Okay. The stage was 12 feet in the air. I took my monopod and put my camera on it, put a remote control firing device on it. Like I said, because you still got to come back with the picture.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, and this was before autofocus. Now everything's autofocus, auto exposure. So I take that camera, I guesstimate how far away the guys are. I focus it. I use a wide angle lens, and then I take it and put it, and I push it right into their faces. They're performing, and here comes this goddamn periscope, okay? And they're playing. I shoot the shot. Now, I get home, I look at the film, and the Verdine's head is chopped off.
Uh-huh.
Well, think about this. If his face is chopped off, the picture doesn't work. You've got to see his eyes. I don't throw away anything. My wife will attest to that. I sort of took it, kissed it, said, well, better luck next time. I put it back in my files. I let it alone. 40 years later, when we decide to do this book, I'm going through everything, because one of the things is, in the heat of the moment, you're photographing stuff, you grab stuff, you say what works, what doesn't work, and you move on. You're photographing. I mean, one week I was photographing David Ruffin, Nina Simone, Miles Davis, Earth, Wind and Fire. That was in one week.
1 week. Wow.
1 week. All right.
Wow.
So you're on to the next thing. I hadn't looked carefully, critically at that particular photograph in the slide holder. I decided to pull the slide holder apart.
Okay.
I only needed a 1/16 of an inch. There's that great football movie Oliver Stone, I think, did with Jamie Foxx, where the Al Pacino character says inches. Life is about inches. We grab a bit here, we grab a bit there, and all of a sudden it puts something together. All I needed was a 1/16 of an inch, and it was there. All of a sudden you could see his eyes, and that. I mean, look, man, my heart just jumped out when I saw that. And for me, it's about the work, Cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm so excited that you.
That's good, man. That's good, man. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I wanted to have you here, Bruce, because it's the excitement of the wow, the pleasure, that's what this is all about for me, man. That's what I like to share with people.
Well,
absolutely,
no, I appreciate it, but you've
man,
been gracious enough to give me a little bit of
I'm at the end of the book. Like I said, man, people are gonna run out and get this. There's way so much stuff in here, you know what I mean? So at the end of the book, but I have a burning question, because I want to know who this is at the end of your book. I've been straining myself trying to figure out who is this? A clothing shot. What a great shot, man. You fill me in with this.
That's Bootsy Collins. That's Casper.
Okay.
That's Casper.
Okay.
See, I always tried to be cinematic in my photo sessions. So,
Yeah.
okay, you've got that. So see, this is the in shot. So for the article in the newspaper, we had him walking out of the shot, right? Now, turn to the last black and white shot of the Earth, Wind, and Fire section. And you will see Maurice walking out of the shot, and he's laughing.
Right.
And you can see the what is it? The detritus, you know, you can see the everything, you know.
Yeah.
And see now that then there's a picture of Earth, Wind, and Fire, black and white, of a portrait that just skim back one. It's on the right. Keep going. It should be there. Is that okay? The one on the right, yes. All right. You'll notice, look at the way these guys are staged.
Yeah.
You've got to, you cannot tell somebody, okay, get in front and I'll shoot you. Click. You have to caress this, man. It's
yeah, man.
Like somebody said to me, one of my old brothers, you know, you got to caress it. You know, and George Clinton said, you got to play with it.
Yeah.
You have to take your time and create something. You just don't, you know, so, and then if you go back to the shot of Reese walking out, you can see the ladder that Al McKay was standing on, which gave him the proper height, and it created this wonderful image, and people need to understand how it's about staging. It's about doing the work, doing the homework.
Yeah.
You asked me how I felt when Regina Jones said, okay, I want you to go to Japan on this press tour and photograph the Supremes. By the way, that was the Jean Terrell, Mary Wilson, and Linda Lawrence version.
Mm-hmm.
And, I actually got to be close friends with Mary. Of course, you know, she just passed.
God bless her. Yeah.
Day before yesterday. And she was, I mean, think about that name, man. The Supreme.
Yeah.
Okay? Come on, man. The Supremes? Yeah. I just, you know, I've always loved that. But my point is that, because I'm getting old and I forget shit, but I want to say to you that even today, I feel that excitement, I feel that terror, abject terror, that you know, what can go wrong. I don't walk around with a rain cloud.
That's real, Bruce. Head. That's real, man.
But you know, again, back to the problem solving. You call yourself a professional, then act like one, goddammit. You know, don't, I mean, you know, I see, you know, here I am doing, you know, saying, you know, I mean, let me just say this instead. We won't go negative. We'll go positive. When I went out to shoot my first cover for People magazine, which was Richard Pryor, in 1978, I went to Richard's house. But before I went, 2 days before I photographed, I set everything up. I had a batch of film, right? That all had the same batch number. So I knew that this roll is going to be the same as the other roll. Okay. So you take out as many constants. Well, some people might say that I went a little overboard, but I literally took a rope and marked it where all of my equipment was supposed to go. Why? Because what if my light meter, which you depend on, what if it goes in the shitter? What if, you know, some assistant steps on it or something, and now you can't you have to be prepared.
Good words of wisdom.
I was
Good
Boy Scout.
words of wisdom. Yeah,
I was
good
a Boy
words of
Scout.
wisdom, man.
I'm an
Yeah,
Eagle Scout.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
there's not a lot
Words
of
of
Black Eagle
wisdom.
Scouts out there. All right,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's funny. I'll here's a story that nobody's ever heard.
Be prepared, baby.
I'm on the set of the last Indiana Jones movie, and come back from the lunch break early, and people are starting to come back in, and here's Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and here's the head at Lucasfilm. I think he was the head of production, and he turns to Lucas and Spielberg, and he says, "Oh wow." He says, "Isn't this?" He says, "I've never seen a moment like this." He says, "We got 3 Eagle Scouts in one place together, working on this great movie." And sometimes I don't know how to shut my mouth, and because I'm taking pictures of this, and I said, "No, there's 4." and the look,
yeah, I bet.
Priceless.
Yeah, I bet.
But I say that to say that we have to be prepared. And so for that Richard Pryor thing, I had marked where the light went. Yeah. Because it's constant. So and it's this powerful. And so if you know that it's an F8 at 5 feet, then you could shoot the damn thing blindfolded. You know what your film's gonna look like because you tested it. Anyway,
be prepared. On that note, man. On that note, we're getting close to the end here, but I have a couple of records, and just give me some words for them, just in terms of how this music makes you feel, right? Okay, so let's.
Kind of Blue, Miles Davis. Love that period with Gil Evans. I mean, we know who the lineup is. It's quiet. It's thoughtful. It's delicious. That's if you've never heard it. I mean, I'm one of the things I did was I told my son about that. I told my son about that, and because he's going to be 30. And I mean, I said, you need to, you can love everything else. I love Supreme, John Coltrane. I think that was Wally Heider, who was the who recorded it in New Jersey. I personally like his live recording at Antibes in the south of France of A Love Supreme. The crowd was like stunned. It was the first time that they had performed it. But I mean, if you don't know La Love Supreme, it's like, mother, what?
Last one here.
Weather Report, Heavy Weather, Joseph Zavenu, Wayne Shorter, who were 2 alumni of the Miles Davis Band. To listen to Miles talk to both of them in the recording studio is priceless. Jaco Pastorius.
Jaco, yeah.
Oh man, but that I think it's called Bahama Mama or
Bahama. Yeah.
Yes, I want that played at my funeral.
Yeah, great song, man. Great song.
I mean,
Bruce,
because
I'm telling you, man, you know the feel of music, man. You know the feel of music, and it's definitely reflected in your shots, man. You know what I mean? Seriously, I mean, you know your music, you know your stuff is reflected in your shots. Also, too, I just want to give a quick shout too, because we're getting close to the end here, but this was another gentleman you had extreme access to. This book here with Bob Marley, Spiritual Dancer. You had a lot of access with Bob as well. You know what I mean? And once again, it's reflected in your work, man. And like I said, I could do a whole nother show with you, man. Just, I tried to pick out the best things and so on and so forth, things that kind of spoke to me, like my records doing behind me, and your book does too, man. And I love you, man. And I just want you to carry on. And so give me some last words of wisdom, some parting words of wisdom, man, for whoever or whatever, or shout out to whoever you want to shout to, man.
Parting words. Well, first
Parting
of all,
words, man. Come on.
I want to say, I've had so many people who looked out for me.
Yeah.
Howard Bingham, Regina Jones, who gave me my first job at Soul newspaper. I only made $100 a week, but hey, man, that was $100 a week.
Yeah.
I became the photo editor. She gave me the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
She gave me the space to do this work. Yeah. As I said, this is work at the start of my career. I gotta say that, there was a guy named Win Muldrow who was this, he had the first Black-owned photo lab in Los Angeles. And he was like this mad chemist and would just mix up these wonderful developers to develop the film. Why was that important? Because it gave my film a look that you didn't see all the time. And so, you look at the for my black and white, you look at the Bob Marley work, and you can really see Win's impact. I always had people, I had people who took a chance. I had, that was at the L'Hermitage Hotel in Los Angeles. I ended up, it was in Beverly Hills. I had him for 20 minutes, a 20-minute session where I pulled my equipment in. But
words of wisdom. Give me some words of wisdom.
Yeah,
words of wisdom, man.
I just want to say that that if you want to be a photographer, you've got to have a little bit of the iconoclast and the anarchist in you. You cannot, the word no doesn't exist. You've got to figure out a way. If you really want to be, and it's anything in the visual arts or in any profession, you've got to do your homework. You've got to, in other words, what I'm saying is you've got to do the work.
Yeah.
And I am a big believer that, and I'm an optimist. I act like a pessimist sometimes, but I'm an optimist. And you've got to do the work and take care of your work. Understand about copyright law. Understand that if you take care of your work, 40 years from now, your work will take care of you.
As it does. And that's a great note to end on, man. You know what I mean? Because obviously you're reflective of that, man. I really thank you, man. Thank you, Bruce, for spending the time with me today, man. We're going to definitely do this again when you do another book too, right? I know you got stuff locked away there, man. So
we're working on some stuff.
Yeah, man.
I just want to say this last thing. I've been interviewed by a bunch of folks. I've been, I've talked with folks about the craft, talked with folks. I have really enjoyed this because we got to talk about and play with a couple of things that I hadn't talked about before. And,
cool, man.
And I appreciate the time. I appreciate your knowledge, and the love of the music. I would like to maybe one day at some point come through and just look, because analog,
analog, baby.
It's daddy. It's wonderful. Like what you see.
Yeah, I see what's behind you there. Yeah.
I've also, I've got a record collection which I understand, and but it's exciting. And look,
thanks for that compliment, Bruce. I appreciate that,
so
man.
thank
You,
you.
man.
You know,
No, seriously, man.
This has been, I'm trying to, I just want to have fun, man. You know, I just want to have some joy.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Talk about, because, and here's the last thing. I said the last thing 3 times, but here is the last thing. At some point, you know, if you get to be my age or even younger, you know, you put your feet on the side of the bed and you realize that your work will stand.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
That's what we need to strive for, is to be able to do the work and know, you know, when it's also time to stop or to go in another direction. Yeah. And so that for me is, I think, one of the important things to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I said I had something, just a small surprise. This is not a small surprise, but this is what you have is the little book. This is the big book.
Ooh, the big book. Okay, man.
And it weighs like 20 some odd pounds.
Wow. That's a treasure there, man. That's a rare gem there, baby.
It's crazy.
That's a rare gem, man. Yeah. Bruce, seriously, thank you, man. I appreciate your words of wisdom. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate your compliment, man. And, you know, for keeping the music alive, keeping the history alive. It's a key, man. Thank you for being here today, man. I'm telling you, it's been my pleasure. Okay, my brother?
Cliff, thank you.
Thank you, man. I'll talk to you soon, man. All right.